Hey. What's up? What's happening, everybody? I was just doing a little research. I couldn't remember if I'd made a video or not for a certain pedal, and indeed I had back in 2021. It's the Keeley Compressor Mini, which I have on my new pedal board, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. The unofficial little theme to get today's show started is some changes I've made to my secondary or sort of 2/3 size pedal board. I just want to show it to you and talk a little bit about it. I mentioned last week I was going to start with a theme. So I thought, well, that's interesting. I guess we all like to know what's on each other's pedal boards. What are you using? What's on your pedal board? Anyway, the Compressor Mini. I'd made a video for it in 2021, and I'm watching it, and I have no recollection of writing this piece of music at all. And it's so weird. It's not even that long ago, but it's 4 years ago. God. Anyways. But yeah, I couldn't remember if I'd made this video. Anyway, it's a great sounding little compressor. This board, I'm going to show you the board now. It started out with an Illumine, is that how you call it? The Nuniber reverb and a Digitech Strymon Dig for delay. The Strymon Dig version 2 for delay. And that was great, and it was working out really good. But then I got a VP4, and I realized I can do so much with the VP4, the fractal VP4. I thought, what if I put it on there and just use it as, because you can use a 4 cable, but I'm not doing that. I'm just using it as post effects, delay, reverb, and everything else under the sun that you can imagine using post. So anyway, I added the VP4 on the board, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now. Put it on a little riser so that it sits high. Don't mind the mess of cables down there. This is just because there's long ass MIDI cable, and then I'm getting a loom made and stuff like that. So it's going to be good. But anyway, this is the way that the board looks right now down on my floor, beneath my feet, with the VP4 on there. So I've got the little Effects 10D switcher on there. I did a video on this board when it had the Dig and Illumine on it. Kind of looks like the VP4 is hanging over, but it's not. Actually, it's just the picture. It totally fits on there and doesn't hang over the back of the board. So there's still a couple things that are going to change on this little board. You can see it's got an anodyne chorus. That's the bright blue pedal. I'm going to take that off because I found that I can do everything that I need to do with a chorus in front of the amplifier. Oh, I cracked my phone screen. Is there? Well, it's not the screen. It's the screen protector. That's what it's for, to protect the screen. Got to get a new one. Anyway, that anodyne chorus on there, that's going to get pulled off because I can do it with the Zelza, basically. Like the Zelza, that purple pedal there, super underrated pedal from Crazy Tube. No, from Strymon. Why do I keep misnaming Strymon pedals? I think I need to drink more of this. Okay. So anyway, the Zelza from Strymon, phaser, flanger, chorus, basically is what it does. And I think it's just, if I had to, offer them a suggestion, I would say it doesn't really explain what it is, the name of the pedal. It's a fun name and everything, but it doesn't really, it's not clear maybe to people exactly what it is. So somebody's asking how many times I drop the phone. Not that many. It's kind of amazing how fast these screen protectors crack. It's just I can drop it on carpet, I feel like, and it'll develop little, which I guess that's, the last time I took it in, this is the second screen protector I've had. And the last time I took it in, I said, are they supposed to do this? Because this sucks kind of. It's only been on there 6 months or something. The guy was like, that's what they do, but they protect your screen. So anyway, yeah. Where was I? So anyways, the Zelza, it's just a great pedal for mod, for flange, chorus, phaser. I can get it to sound really phase 90 if I want to. I can get it to sound like a Boss chorus, pretty much anything I need for an in-front basic mono. I mean, it'll do stereo, but I'm running a mono in front. Any stereo stuff I need to do, of course, I can do in the VP4. So what else do I like about the VP4? I love that I can hook it up to an easy editor and just make patches and, so I'm going to be getting into that this week because this is the board. This little board is what I'm going to take over to Japan in about a week and use on tour over there for some shows that I've got in the back half of this year. It's just real simple, real easy. The Effects 10D is the Musicom Lab switcher you see there in the bottom corner. I can use that to do just about everything I need to do switching wise. It's just 4 simple presets per bank. Really easy to, to use. You can see everything else I got on there. Polytune, that's always a standby on my board. I love the Polytune. This is going to get replaced too. The gray pedal there. That's the superconductor boost. And I'm going to put my Unit 67 from Drybell there instead. Because I'm so used to it. I love it. I love the certain setting I have on it. It's a one sound kind of setting that I can use for a boost to kick the front of the amp, and just it's my Moore pedal that I love. This is a Moore pedal too, but which is also really good. But I've gotten so accustomed to the Unit 67, so I'll pull it off my main board and put it on here for this tour. Then you can see I got a little Keeley compressor mini next to that. That is the pedal I couldn't remember if I'd made a video for, but a really nice little mini compressor. Keeley does compressors so well. And then next up there, you see I've got the Starlight fuzz from Crazy Tube Circuits. That's one of my favorite fuzzes. I've got an Archer on there for my Klon on this board because I got to have a Klon. Was thinking about trying this guy because this is really great. I've got a video coming out for this soon. This is the Manus from my friends at Keeley. So another Keeley pedal. Really, really good sounding. I mean, I can make it sound basically exactly the same as that Archer that's on there. And the Archer's always, it's a great, awesome sounding Klon. But this guy has a couple other little voicing options via the switches. So you'll see a video on this coming up this week. It's just really, really good sound. It's a great, great sounding Klon style pedal. Really, really good. But yeah, that's the only two changes I'm going to make. Basically, the two pedals in the kind of over there, the blue anodyne and the superconductor. So in place of the anodyne, I'll put an overdrive of some sort. I was thinking maybe either the Janray, because for my gig over there in Japan, I use this or have in the past. This is with Toshi Nagabuchi. So I was thinking either that or maybe the good old Ecstasy Blue. Low gain, Marshall in a box. Sounds great getting hit with the Klon if I need that. Set it up to be almost maybe like sort of JTM 45-ish for a lighter gain thing if I need that. An ampy gain to go in front of the clean channel of my amp. If I need that sound. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's probably what'll go on there, the Bogner, because I know it and it just works good. It's still a really, really good sounding, well done, plexi in a box kind of pedal, I think. Yeah. Yeah. If it's from Keeley, it's going to be good, says, oops, that was I plug into the Klon Goop. Somebody said if it's going to be Keeley, it's going to be good. That was Mark. And then the chat jumped before I could click it. Yeah, totally, Keeley mix, there's certain pedals I love that they do really, really well. They do just about everything really, really well, but, their compressors are, just excellent. And he certainly, I mean, they make lots of great stuff. They're like Analog Man or, a company where just about everything's good. It's really true. There's certain companies where if you buy something, it's going to be good. Like the Strymon pedals for what they do, Keeley for what they do. If you get one, it's going to be good. You're not going to get it and go, this is really underwhelming or disappointing. Like pretty much anything they make is great. There's some companies where there's hit or miss. They knock it out of the park on something else. You're like, I don't get this at all, but I would say Keeley's a good example of one that's not, he knows all the circuits. And yeah. All right. I saw Supergrass on Friday night. That was great. Those guys are so good. They're a band I'd almost forgotten about. And then I used to listen to them like way back 90s, early 2000s. And they were playing at the Palladium here in LA. It was really fun. Saw some buddies there. Saw Taylor from Rooney. I hadn't seen him in years. And just kind of ran into people there. I like the Palladium in LA. It's a good venue. If you're ever going to go to a show, it's kind of got a great old school ballroom rock and roll vibe. It's just one of those places I almost forgotten about. But it's really actually a good venue. Sometimes I complain there's not enough venues in LA, and then I realized there's actually a few that have sort of spaced out on. One of them is right there in the middle of Sunset Boulevard, the Palladium. Yeah. And then last night I went to a really fun party at the Apogee studio, which was actually 2 studios there now because Bob Clearmountain has built a mix room there. Tragically lost his home in the fires a while back, and everybody rallied, including like Tom Lord Alge, and helped him get a new SSL console that's very much like the one that he had in his home, which has now been lost. And he's got a beautiful new mix room there called Mix This from the Ashes. So it was really fun to go to the party. And I put up on my Instagram story a little video of, let me find it here, Bob jamming with the band last night, which was Chevy Metal. There we go. There's Bob on bass. Just look at him, playing his old Ricky. For the nice folks at the party with Chevy Metal. Shane Hawkins on drums and Rami on teeth and food. Yeah. Really fun night. Fun was had by all. Good times. Saw lots of friends there. Lyle Workman. Lyle's got a gig this week at the Baked Potato, if anybody's in LA. It's his first solo thing, really, where he's like, because he's had some solo records out and stuff over the years. And he's an amazing guitar player. For those that don't know Lyle, he really, really amazing compositions as well. His main gig is he does his film composing these days. He did the scores for the 40-Year-Old Virgin was his first really big one. And then from that, he went on and did Superbad and a bunch of movies that that crew made. And he's done a whole ton of work, but he's an amazing guitar player. He just played with Sting for a little bit. He played with Frank Black from the Pixies. So he's got a gig at the, just pumping his gig a little bit here. The Big Potato, legendary venue in LA. Go see Lyle if you're in town and support. I guarantee he'll knock you out. He's a really, really good guitar player. And like I say, his compositions are kind of next level it's not, he really thinks like a composer and he understands guitar tones. As a matter of fact, he bought one of my, my Comets. Anybody remember my first Comet that I had with the wood front on it? I've got two, and he bought that one. I kind of wish I'd kept it, to be honest, because it was my first one. But I still have one of my Concours. It was the second one I got, so I'll never get rid of that. But Lyle used it with Sting for a while. He used to run it in conjunction with a 50-watt small box Marshall, an old one. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna look through some of your comments here. If you got any questions on the board or whatever, then let me know on this little pedal board. Oh, I want to mention one more thing about the board. One cool thing is that it's a Temple board, and on the side of it, it's got those those Temple kind of patch bays. Let me just take a picture. Maybe that's easier, so you can see what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, they make it very, very easy for you to hook your stuff up because of these bays that they. Come on, friggin' iPhone, for fuck's sake. Sorry, I hate the phone. Come on, man. Like, why is it? Okay, and now Britt's texting me, and I don't know why. Does anything ever happen? Like, why is it in edit mode? And I just want to show you a picture that I just took. Christ's sakes. All right, hold on just a second here. I feel like so old some days. It's just driving me insane. Like, honestly, stuff drives me crazy more and more. Okay, check this out. This is the little patch bay on the side of the board. So on a 1/4-inch jack, in one of these are the little Temple convenient little patch bays that you can get from them when you get one of their boards, which weigh nothing. They're so light. It's awesome. And then you can get these little boards. So I've got an input. I'll just show you what the jacks are while I'm showing you. Guitar in, that's where guitar goes in. Amp in, this actually runs out to the amplifier because it's a 4-cable setup. So this runs to the front of the amp. Send, this comes from the effects send, and then 2 returns here going back into the left right of the board for you're going to the left right inputs of the amplifiers, the effects returns or whatever. That's for the stereo. So, but the main thing I want to show you is this, the 9-volt DC out. So I've got these 2 cables that the nice folks in Jamie and Dave had made for me. 1/4-inch on this end, and then the kind of pedals on this end. If I want to plug a pedal in and power it, I've got a little like easy way that I can, I need a wah or something. There's no wah on the board. I can just plug one of these in and then run this to the pedal for power, and patch in pedal du jour or whatever of the day, and have some 9-volt power on the side. One extra pedal I can add to the board if I need it or something. So I had them do that, and it's really neat. I don't know if you guys know that, but you can actually do that on a 1/4-inch jack. I didn't know. that it was possible to do, because I'm not a smart guy like that. But yeah, quarter inch, you can go quarter inch to whatever one of these barrel connectors is, and better not lose those cables, or I won't be able to do it. Pretty cool, right? Oh, it's so educational around here. Come on, the value is value added. Are you going to capture a Friedman Jose for your tour? I'm not doing any capture stuff on this tour. I'm actually using PT100s over in Japan, if that's what you mean. I got two PT100s that we've done this before, where it's like with the distributor for Sur over there, sometimes they're very, very helpful. I mean, they're often very, very helpful, but it's like we'll do a thing where they'll get a couple of amps or new amps. We will treat them with the utmost of care and use them for the shows on the tour, and then I'll sign them at the end and sell them. And it's a great way for me to have an amp on tour and use something, and then also for because you got to understand is I wouldn't expect anybody would want to buy one of my used amps, because I'm just not that big of a deal, I don't think. But the fact that it's on tour with Joshi adds a lot. I mean, he's like a major deal over there, so maybe somebody is a fan of mine as well. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't sell myself so short, but you know what I'm saying. It's like if it's used on, it's just cool, like I'll sign it, Pete Thorn 2025 Nagabuchi tour, and then folks kind of, if they're a guitar player in there, because he's got a lot of guitar playing fans, for sure. He's a great guitar player himself, with a really cool style. Ben Coombe says he's got a bunch of Keeley stuff on his board. I think I've missed a couple super chats. Let me find those, because it was very nice of the nice people to do nice things. Joe, did you get my email last Sunday? I probably missed it. Like I missed a lot of emails in my life, but now you're going to make me go back and take a look. For sure, I'll go back and find it. I will. Thanks for the advice on the Volt. I will get it. Do you have any inside baseball? What does that mean? Like inside scoop on Jeff Buckley? I don't know exactly what you mean, but I mean, as far as not really. I mean, I came to Jeff Buckley really late as a fan, and then I discovered him well after he'd passed away in the early 2000s, and discovered he was amazing. And it was funny. It was right around the time I was going through a big breakup, I remember, and I was probably all emotional and stuff. And then I found that Grace album, and I just started listening to it religiously. It was so good, and it was just like, I don't know, like so raw and amazing. And I was like, oh, I really missed the boat on this. But then I discovered that he was really good friends with Chris as well. So, and my one Buckley story that's not even, it's more to do with Chris, but he had a phone that was just a dial-up phone, or maybe it had buttons on it, but it was an old school telephone with one of the, nothing fancy. I think it was red. And that's my memory of it. And Chris had it on tour. And when he started touring solo, he had this phone on a pedestal on stage. And he would tell a story about Jeff Buckley and how they used to talk on the phone a lot, how they were buddies. And it's kind of a sad story, actually. It's pretty melancholy, but it was really a great thing to include in his show. He said his mother, I think it was his mother, after he passed away, gave Chris this telephone. He said, this is the phone that, that Jeff used to use. I know you guys used to talk on the phone a lot, and this is the phone he would talk to you on, from his home. And Chris said, he felt like maybe he could pick up the phone and Jeff would maybe be on the other end. You're not crying. I'm not crying. It was quite a moment, and I can't remember if he would then play one of Jeff's songs or not. But anyway, that was during the songbook tour. It was really that's the kind of guy Chris was. So anyway, that's my one Jeff Buckley story that I'll tell today. Let's see. When I retire and kids go to college, thanks for that super chat, by the way, there. Appreciate that. When I retire and kids go to college, I think I'm going to go buy a condo in LA and spend weeks at a time going to local shows. Man, there's still a lot of good stuff going on, gigs and things happening. And, so, people complain about LA or whatever. You hear stuff on the media or social media or whatever, and it's all a bunch of bullshit. There's great stuff going on in LA, downtown and Highland Park, and there's gigs all the time. And, I mean, there's 2 Oasis gigs this weekend, one of which I'm going to tonight in a few hours. So there's always stuff happening. Supergrass the other night, I was thinking Cage the Elephant's opening tonight for Oasis, which is cool. But I thought, God, Supergrass would have been actually a great opener for Oasis. Like, great. They had Richard Ashcroft in the UK and stuff opening mainly, I think, which also I would have loved to see Richard Ashcroft. Never seen him live. I love all that stuff. I'm not just about metal and Van Halen. Okay. Let's see. Old Man Phone Breakdown. I have those too. That wasn't about the Jeff Buckley story. That was about my cell phone. Okay, right. Yeah, I'm starting to feel the coffee buzz. It feels good. I like it. Is that shirt from the 930 Club in DC? It is indeed. 100%. Played there a lot over the years. Joe says Rooney's awesome. Reminds me of Guster. Rooney's great. Yeah, really good. Taylor's been gigging as a side guy with Train for quite some time now. So Pat, what's his name? Pat Monahan, is that his name? Finally got to play PT-15, said Stefano. It's a remarkable amp, full of tone, incredibly versatile. It really is a good sounding amp. I forget how good it sounds sometimes when I get lost and I'm playing other things, and then I come back to it. I go, oh, maybe I'll use the PT-15, which I used for a solo yesterday with the Manus in front of channel 2, and it just sounded killer. I was like, God, it's such a good, you know what I'm talking about, but refined Marshall, because I was playing my SL68, which is raw plexi, also a Serb, but it's the plexi basically. And then I want a little more amp gain out of this, but more like the JCM 800, but refined kind of sound. And then I'll run this into it for real high gain, and it sounded killer. It's just a really, really good sounding amp, the 15. I agree. So, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, that's a good idea. This is a great idea. Bought some colored plastic nuts for the Temple audio patch bays. Makes it convenient to figure out things quickly on the fly. That, like, in other words, so you're color coded your cables and stuff, and you can see the green goes to green and blue goes to blue or whatever. That's very smart. I like that. This is what we do around here. We share knowledge. Yeah. Somebody else says, I really like my Temple board. They have some really neat stuff. I like them too, man. I mean, I've got a few now. I think I've got 3. 2, 3. Got at least 2. But and I've got a Pelican that fits the boards perfectly, so I can fly them around. I'm totally sold on them. They're so light and convenient for passing cables through and stuff. I mean, they just work good. So the patch bays and everything, and I've used the one with 5 for Fighting that's got my quad Cortex on it for a number of years now, since about 2021 or something like that. Never had a problem. It's always great. It's sturdy enough. It just works super good. Took it out on Satch Vi as well and used it as my kind of like secondary board and acoustic, because that's what the quad was doing on that gig. Just awesome. No complaints. Very big fan. Okay. Did you get the Boss PX one? Is that the new modeler one that does all the different things? I don't have one of those yet. No, I haven't. I haven't even really had time to check out videos and stuff on it. Cool idea, I think, kind of. I mean, a one sound sort of pedal that you can put a bunch of stuff in. They're not the first people that did it. I think there's some other companies that have done that concept before, so we'll see how it works, But yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, I think, What's your preferred distance between pickup and strings? How does it change between active and passive? I don't know about between active and passive. I don't have a lot of active guitars. So I've got one guitar here with EMGs and one with the Fishman pickups, the Fluence. And I can't say as I've really put a hell of a lot of thought into the pickup height on those guitars, but I'll tell you this: on a passive guitar, on a Strat, you got to be careful because of the old Stratitis, where they call it. You can literally see it on a tuner when the neck single coil or even the middle single coil gets up too high, because the magnets are the pull pieces, of course. That magnet starts pulling on the string, and if you hit the low E string, you'll literally see the tuner going like this, and that's the, literally kind of doing that. The meter on the tuner doing one of these, and that's the magnet pulling on the string. So you want to avoid that, and always sort of, if you're real picky about it, you want to be checking that and make sure it's not. You can definitely see it more when you push the string down. Let's say fret it at the 12th fret or 15th fret or something, because the string's getting closer to the pickup at that point. You can push down, you'll see it start to, and that's going to affect your sustain and tuning and intonation and sustain and stuff. So you don't want that. It's a fine line, because sometimes, if your Strat pickup isn't super strong, if it's a little on the weak side, you want to get it higher and make it louder, and then you can't, kind of. Or you can, but you're going to have that trade-off. It's a pretty big trade-off. So you got to watch out for that. Bridge humbuckers, I kind of set medium high. I don't like to get too high, because generally it's going to, especially if I've got a single coil in the neck, you're going to overpower the, it's, no matter what, it's going to be a little louder than the neck single, unless you're like, Jakey Lee and using an SDS1 or something in the neck, which is like a single coil super distortion. A real powerful single coil that's beyond a Strat pickup. But yeah, if you've got a PAF in the bridge style, and a 6 to 6.3, whatever, 6.5K single coils, whatever, set a hotter, mid-hot kind of singles in a guitar, you can generally set the bridge humbucker sort of medium to medium high, and it'll be okay. It's going to be a little louder than the singles still, but you just got to balance them out. And I always set the bass side a little lower too. It's generally, that just works out for the volume. Generally check with a clean tone. Listen to how the amp sounds clean, and try and balance the pickups with a clean sound, because the main thing you want to get is a nice volume balance without a ton of difference, unless you want a ton of it. Maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want the bridge pickup to be ripping loud and the neck to be like, I like it lower volume. That's fine. There's no rules. But if you're trying to get a decent balance between all the pickups, listen to the sound clean with no compression, balance it out, and then check it with overdrive and see what you think. But generally for me, that means I'm progressively, the bridge pickup is at a certain medium height, and then I've got the if there's a middle pickup, it's kind of on the low side generally, because you've also got, if it's a Strat, you got those pull pieces sticking up, and that can get in the way of your pick, unless it's flat on top, the pull pieces. But I don't like that feeling either. So there's all these factors to consider. And then the neck pickup is going to be a little lower than that pickup generally, and generally angled with the bass side, bass string side down a little bit further, so that they don't overpower the treble strings. And this is all stuff you can listen to. Just use your ears, balance it all out. There's probably some great videos online about how to do this stuff. It's similar with a Les Paul or something. You're going to want to have one here, but you're going to want to, well, I do, but I'm too lazy to go pick it up. You're going to want to have the neck pickup. I generally, I don't have the neck pickup higher than the ring on a Les Paul. It's generally like right about as even height with the top of the pickup ring. Something about it where I don't really like the look when it gets lower than the ring. It's a total visual dumb thing, but generally I've got the treble side maybe just poking out a little bit above the ring, and the bass side's about even with the ring. And then on the bridge pickup, it's higher, medium high, getting towards the strings. And that's it. That's, and I'll kind of put them like that, like where I think they should be, and then I'll start listening and make small adjustments. It's usually not too far off from wherever I think they should be. So somebody's saying that new Boss pedal is a train wreck, right? I haven't really paid attention, to be honest, you guys. I heard a few things about people with criticisms or complaints. I think there's some criticism about, I think there's some sort of subscription-based thing involved. Is that right? Am I wrong about that? Let's discuss. Maybe you guys tell me what the thing is and what the drama is, because I'm not 100% for sure about it. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Pete, you need a haircut. Well, Kevin, you need a haircut. What's wrong with my friggin' hair, man? I think it looks pretty cool. I actually do need a haircut. It just gets a little long up here, and then it doesn't do the thing that it's kind of supposed to do for this haircut, which isn't really that, but sort of. It's a shag, man. It's 1973. It's still there, and it hasn't gotten up and left. So I'm just having some fun, for Christ's sakes. All right. What else? Tom says, if it weren't for women, life would be easy, but music would suck. They probably say the same thing about you or us, men, right? Can't live with them, can't live without them, and all that. I don't know. Steven says, Baked Potato, the Viper Room, and the whiskey all seem to have something going on. Yeah, and there's lots of other places too that, Highland Park's got some great, just smaller venues and things that you don't hear about as much. There's stuff going on. There's a really cool, it's not in Highland Park, but it's more like Mount Washington. Excuse me. It's like a record store, but it's also a bar and venue where they have all kinds of bands. That's cool. I can't remember the name of it, but it's in Mount Washington. Let me find the name of it, because if I'm going to go that far with it, I better do a better job than that. Let's see here. Mount Washington record store bar venue. Permanent Records. I think that's what it's called. The first bar, record store, live music venue in Los Angeles. Permanent Records. That's a fun one. So, kind of close to, it's not far from a lot of things. Atwater, Silver Lake, Echo Park. Permanent Records Roadhouse. Check that place out. What else are good venues? I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. Anything else? But that's going to be my one other recommendation. Harvard and Stone still there doing stuff. I think that's kind of East Hollywood. Like really, it's in Thai Town. Let's see. I had a great time in Antwerp. That's a nice place. At the Satch Vai concert. Yeah, me too. We bumped into each other on the terrace of the bistro after the concert. I remember that. Was that my birthday? Or no, it was my birthday the next night, I think. My birthday was the next night. That was really fun. And I remember I've met a few people, so I'm not sure which one you were out of the few, but I totally remember hanging there. Kenny came out and stuff, and we all had a beer and hung out. And that was a really good show. I remember the Antwerp show. What a nice little town, too. It's a great place. Or medium-sized city, whatever it is. Yeah. If Taylor Swift asked you to go on her tour, would you? Sure. Heck yeah. That'd be a good paying tour. I guarantee it, because I know the guys that do it. That's house buying money, man. What are you going to say, no? Well, let's see. I could sit around here and make distortion pedal videos, or I can go make house buying money playing guitar in front of 80,000 people. I'm a mercenary, man. Not that I don't. I mean, Taylor Swift, she's a talented individual. Let's be honest. Absolutely. I like making distortion pedal videos. Don't get me wrong. I've been a big fan of Van Halen's Dancing in the Streets. I don't really like that song. Is that bubbly sound of keyboard, or is that guitar and delay? Dancing in the Streets is some sort of, is it Mini Moog, or is it's some, what's the keyboard on it? I don't know. It's something Eddie experimenting and just kind of, but to me, Dancing in the Streets was a phoning it in. It's my least favorite Van Halen cover. My least favorite. I felt like, and I bet Eddie would say the same. That's my guess. We can't ask him. But Dancing in the Streets, Van Halen keyboard sound. I think it's a Mini Moog or something. What is it? Yeah, Mini Moog. Keyboard sound of Van Halen's cover of Dancing in the Streets was created on a Mini Moog synthesizer. This is interesting. This comes up via AI. Eddie Van Halen expressed frustration that a Mini Moog riff was insisted upon by producer Ted Templeman and singer David Lee Roth for the cover, which he felt was a waste of a good idea that he intended to use for an original Van Halen composition. I just think that the song it reeks of that. Dave's like, we gotta have a cover, and Eddie going, man, like I got a bunch of songs. Diver Down is an interesting record because it's like got some of my favorite Van Halen songs on it, like Secrets, Hang 'em High. Those aren't throwaway tunes. Those are great tunes. Little Guitars. All three of those great compositions. I think like love those songs. But then there's it's real short, needed a few more tunes, and I just think like the I'm not crazy about that's the and of course it had Pretty Woman on it, so there's a couple covers on it. Fun songs and all that, but here's the AI context here. Frustration. The use of this riff for the cover caused frustration for Eddie. He believed it hindered his ability to write his own songs and was a distraction. Studio work. The experience contributed to Eddie's decision to build the 5150, allowing him to work more freely. Kind of wanted to take more control. And of course, 1984 was, a pretty epic, I don't want to say return to form, but a new sort of era, an amazing record. I love 1984. But anyway, any new guitars or amps? I've probably got some stuff to show you around here. Well, I've got, first of all, that Bad Cat is staying. That's the Era 30, which was the Mark Sampson, new amp that he helped design for, came back as a designer. And it's so sad that he passed away. I met him at NAMM. A couple weeks later, he passed away. It was unbelievable. He was such a nice guy. He's a legendary designer. Anyway, I just loved that amplifier. So I had to find a way to get one. And because it does the AC30, EL84, EF86 thing in spades, but it's got so much great new stuff, like a great post-phase inverter master, the ability to combine the channels. It's just a real forward-thinking evolution of the AC30, AC15 design, I think. So it's fantastic. Now, another thing that's new here, look at that. Cute little lead 12. So nice gentleman. I won't name his name just in case he doesn't, but he was moving and he's like, I'm moving. I've got this thing around. I don't really want it anymore. It's like maybe he's got to lighten the load kind of thing. So he's like, if you want one of these, I'll send it to you. He just sent it to me. I'm considering it on loan. But I've had that little cabinet underneath forever, the matching little Marshall 110 that I put a greenback. I upgraded the speaker to a greenback 10, which, a new Celestion greenback 10 sounds vastly better than what was in there. The old 35 watt, whatever the speaker they used in the 80s was. But anyway, great little, fun, super fun. Other new things I've got here. This is, I'm not going to reveal everything with this, and it's not going to be in this form. But I might as well. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking about this. This is a prototype for something that I'm working on with Maris. And it's I want to tell you about the features and stuff, but basically what we're working on is a real guitar-centric recording preamp. So it's got a couple of neat things on it. This looks like their old, I think they called it the 540 or the 440, I think. And they're 500 series style modules. You can see that go, if you know what that is, it's kind of a rack chassis that powers them and stuff. But I think this is going to end up being, I think in a one rack space format is what we'll do. But this is just trying some ideas that I had for a guitar centric, and it'd be great for bass players too, but recording preamp for the type of people that have like, a cabinet or two out in another room or whatever, and they've got a couple microphones and they want to be able to record a cabinet really well, like I do in here. There's a couple features on this that I haven't seen in any self-contained preamp, so it's going to be kind of like a thing that I'm doing in conjunction with them. So that's new and kind of exciting if you're into guitar recording, I think. And you're into tweaking tones, man. Yeah. So that's all exciting stuff, kind of new stuff. Guitars, I will have something next week, but not right now. I don't have, but I'll have something beautiful to show you next week. But I've got lots of beautiful stuff in here. That's I'm going to Japan in a week, so I'm going to take this because this has been my main guitar with Satchvi for a while now, which is just friggin' awesome. My PT HSS standard. I love. I'm also going to take my Floyded black and silver sparkle one. And I think that Mac Multi that's sitting right there, because I got to have a telly for that gig, and I think it's going to be that one. Yeah. I have a Silver Sur that I absolutely adore. Inca. Or is it Inca Silver or is it gray? I think it's the darker gray color. I can't remember what they call it. But I've got an old telly that's here. And then I got a couple others, but I think I don't have the silver one. It's in England, so I can't take it. I love that. Otherwise, I would take it. But so I think that Mac Mall, P90 guitar, be fun. The pickups are really noisy in that guitar, but it's got a great sound. Like it sounds like P90s without shit. You guys know if you have a hot P90 guitar, what it does. They buzz. So that's just how it is. But they buzzed always. So who cares, right? It's rock and roll. Yeah, haven't had that guitar on the road for a while, and it's a good one. So got lots of tone. I'll take it out. What else? What else are we talking about here? Did I miss any other super chat? I think I missed one, so I'll get to it here in a sec. Okay, let's talk about this Boss here for a second. Deal with the Boss is like 220 with 16 effects. You can load one at a time. What's wrong with that? Additional effects are $10 each. I mean, that's cool. It's a probably a good thing. A great one sounder. Like I say, like if I needed an extra pedal for a gig, and it's like, oh, I need whatever, a vibrato or something, and I don't have an in front one or whatever. Boom, plop it down there on the floor and plug it into my new little board. It would probably be a good companion. There's a lot of misinfo on the new Boss pedal. There's no subscription required. The pedal's not my cup of tea, but I think there's some unnecessary drama about it. There's unnecessary drama about everything these days, isn't there? Oh my God. Okay. This guy likes it. Pete. Cool name you got there. Sounds fantastic. Identical to the originals. I love it. That's great. There you go. Speaking from experience. And I love that. Braxel says, be yourself. I shall. I promise. Very good vintage shag at that. Thanks. I'm getting it trimmed up next week, so I'm ready to go away for a month. But not a cut, just a trim, Hack into that thing. The new Boss pedal feels like paying a subscription for my car to keep the keyless entry. But the other guy just said that you don't need a subscription. Which is it? Does it need a subscription or not? You guys fight it out. How many hours do you think you can play a 100-watt amp before some kind of issue happens? Like with your hearing? Or the neighbors calling the cops? It could be all kinds of issues. I think that's not what you meant, but the issues could be many. Getting fired from your band. If you're 16 and you're doing it, your dad hammering on the ceiling, shut up. No, an issue with the amplifier. I mean, it's, there's plenty of anecdotal, cases of old Marshalls or Fenders or whatever of, things that have got original tubes and filter caps and stuff, and they just keep on ticking. There's also plenty of them that break within, no time at all, or have tubes go south or stuff. So it just depends. It's really amp dependent. There's obviously things you can do to minimize issues. Like not cranking them to the hilt like every day, like Eddie Van Halen did. Or, making sure that you're just, with like a lot of amps back in the day weren't built like as good as the modern boutique stuff is now, I mean, people talk about point to point and this, that, and the other thing, but let's be honest, it's like there was a lot of sketchy stuff with, I mean, even just the design of the old Plexi, I think, You can do these things now on the tubes where Sir does it sometimes if he wants to make it more reliable, where he adds these grid something or other resistors or something. I can't remember. And he's like, this just makes it more stable, like for the road. And I don't think you're going to notice a difference, in the sound. And I haven't. He's done things like that on my amps. Like my SL68 has that. So, they amps, old AC30s. I mean, they're like, who turned on the fuzz box after 45 minutes? Because they can just heat up and get crazy, and they're not the most reliable. Or amps that run really high plate voltages, hard on tubes and stuff. So it depends. A lot of stuff I'm just trying to say a lot of stuff's made more reliable now. And, have less issues over time than you will with some older amps that weren't designed so well. Yeah. Hot take: the Bogner Ecstasy Blue dual pedal may be the best Marshall Extra dirt pedal ever made. I think it's great too, man. I had one of those on my board for a long time. That's why I say I'm probably going to put the little Ecstasy Blue on, because it's just I know it works. If I need a good mid gain, like sometimes I want the PT100, but no, I want to run the gain on 5 or 6 on my drive side on channel 2. But sometimes I want more of just like a light plexi, a late 60s. You're playing a Stonesy sound or something. You want just a little bit of breakup, more JTM 45 or more of that kind of, like a bit of just a bluesy, So that's what I'll use a pedal like the Ecstasy for, set in the lowest gain position with the gain on about half and just a little bit of grind. And then you can hit like a clon in front of it for a nice like mid gain solo, That's the kind of thing that I like to have a pedal on my board to do that. So just saw a clip of Satriani playing with Mick Jagger in '88. Very cool. Joe was it's one of the things that he does. It's why I think he's done a great job, with like if you watch some of the latest stuff that's just come out with Sammy and the Van Halen, like there's a version of I think Summer Nights or something that came out recently. And when you listen to him and the way he adds his own thing, but can play other people's music really well, he's got sideman skills, we think of him as a stylist, but we have to remember that Joe played in a lot of bands, he toured with Mick. I heard the whole story of how he got the gig too. It was great. He's so humble about it. He never thought he was going to get it. And he's like, but I have to go down and audition because the chance came up to go play, and he got the gig. So, I gotta play. It's Mick Jagger. So he went and did, and then he got the gig. And he's like, I guess I'm going on the road. So, Greg Kinn, right? Didn't he play with him for a while? And then he did like disco bands and stuff for, he was a pro working musician, just, playing in bands and doing stuff for a long time. So he's got those skills. Pretty cool. Not everybody does, there's a lot of players that, I guess Eddie Van Halen, back in the day, he played a lot of covers with Van Halen. He was pretty good, but I still think of him as a guy that was best in his band. Like, you put him in other situations and he sounds like Eddie Van Halen from Van Halen in other situations. Whereas like there's certain other guys that can sort of meld into I call being a sideman, I always say it's like being an actor, because you got to learn a lot of other people's parts. So you're in another role and you need to kind of make the role, you need to it's like when people do James Bond, right? Like you're James Bond, but each guy had his own take on it, and it was a little different, they put their own style into it. That's going to happen when you're a sideman in a band. You're not going to be an exact clone of anybody, but your spin on it, you're basically an actor, but you're playing music, so it's interesting. I think the demo you did for the new Ethos, we haven't even talked about that. The Ethos Fender Deluxe Reverb Dumble made it look like a lot of fun. It is good. I mean, those people have a lot of experience making that type of pedal, a preamp based pedal, and that's becoming more popular than ever now. By the way, on my board, I don't know if you noticed, but I have a little Tone X down there. Let me just go back to my picture there. There it is on the corner of the board, right? Little mini Tone X. So the idea with that is I can actually do a direct setup with the board because it's in the last loop. Before it goes out to the VP4 send and all that stuff. So it kind of is the amp on the board. And if I want to use it, I can just turn on that loop, have an amp sound dialed up there, and I can have all those other pedals running into the Tonex, and it can be my amp. So I could also be running various overdrives in there and use it as a, if I'm like, oh, I really need a screamer, I guess I could make a capture of a screamer and load it in there. There's probably a million of them I could just download too, already available on the Tonex, the editor or whatever it is. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I just think I'd put some, captures of PT100, maybe some Amalgam, that company that makes the great Marshally ones, maybe pop a couple of those in there to have in there or something. But if I needed to do a gig or my amps go down, I'll probably take a little bit of time over the next couple of weeks and set up a couple, a good clean Fender and a nice mid-gain Marshall kind of thing in there, a good drive, so that I can, PT channel 2 sound, so I can have those on deck, just kind of A/B. If all went to hell, I could run the board right out into a DI, and nobody'd be the wiser. Yeah. I gotta grab that super chat there. If you sold your CDs, I promise you'd make lots happy and make a profit. I know I should really do that, but the problem is I haven't had any on CD for a while, and it requires the investment of going to buy them. So it just means to be putting in, buying 500 or 1,000 and making that investment and then selling the, it's really, I don't think there's that many people that, the situation would have to be, I'm going to do a clinic tour or something where, okay, I can go and I can sell like maybe 10 or 15 or 20 of these every time you know what I mean? And then it makes sense to get some, that there's not that many people that ask for it, to be honest. I mean, I think a lot of people are just streaming now and using Spotify and using Apple Music, and that's the way but there's a certain number of people. If I went and invested and I bought, 500 of Guitar Nerd and 500 Pete Thorn 2, I'd probably move through them over the next couple of years. That's kind of how it goes with those now. I miss the days, man. I mean, it was cool. I used to love, CD Baby, and they had them there, and it was cool. It's like physical is cool to me. I really, of course, as well, when I do another record, I mean, LP is a thing I want to do, for sure. Proper mastering and stuff for LP, and even though I can't record analog, it kind of seems dumb, like to record digital and then you're gonna bring it over to the analog world. But it's just the physical, having an LP is cool. So, yeah, man. All right. But yeah, thanks for, I totally moved off what you said there, Eston. Not talking about the demo that I did for the Ethos this week. Sorry about that. I got onto my Tonex thing and started hyping another product. The Ethos is great. They've been doing it for a long time. They do it, it's analog speaker sim, analog preamp. I think the reverb's got to be digital in it because it just sounded like it. I mean, there's no room for a spring in there, so of course it is. But, I didn't think they did anything digital. But anyway, the reverb works good. It sounds really nice preamping the tube power amp in the power station. I thought that was my favorite, so you could run it into the return of an amp or something and get a cool tone, I think. And yeah, nice stuff. If you're the kind of player that just wants a simple on the board sort of preamp that's tweakable right at your feet, look no further. Watching from Liverpool. What's up, Simon? How are you? Let's see here. There's the super chat from Steven. What's up, man? I love the tone on the originals on Diver Down. I do too, even though people call it his broken tone. But, I love it too. And I like the use of the chorus and stuff. Secrets and Little Guitars are amazing. The Full Bug are amazing. It's kind of a great memory of mine, of Ed. When he brought out the chorus pedal, I worked somewhat kind of, I don't want to say closely, but it was like we did have a back and forth a lot over, because if you watch my video for the chorus, I do a version of Secrets, I do a version of Cathedral, and I think I do a version of Pretty Woman. I don't even think he used the chorus on Cathedral. Maybe he did, but I don't think so. But I did it anyway, in the video. and I did Secrets with my 12, and I did a cool, version of it, I think. And I was sending him those as I was doing it, and he would write back and be really complimentary and just really sweet about it and stuff. Because I want to make sure he was happy with them. So even for just my little demo video, we had a nice, really cool back and forth. And over, they were just trying to have a good, successful release of that chorus pedal and stuff. And they got me to make that video. So anyways, that's that. It's fun. I love those tunes too. I mean, it sounds like, it's like summertime, 1982, those tunes, like Secrets, all those sus chords. And they just got this great feel to them, that's timeless. It's amazing. And yet it's I can listen to it and I love it just as much as I did then, but it's timeless, and it's also like a moment in time, like a stamp in time of a sound of, that magic era of Van Halen. So yeah, when everything was good, it's like, it's just, there's a lot of drama with Van Halen, and a lot of negativity and different stuff that none of that was the case back then, or at least we weren't aware of it. It was just all magic. Van Halen was like magic. It was like they were like superheroes, around 1982, that just seemed like to have the best good time life, right? So then those songs kind of reflect that, I think, to me. Full Bug, good stuff, just fun. Joe says, I listened to your song Remember last Sunday and it was beautiful. I showed my dad later. Oh man, that's so nice. Thanks, man. Maybe that's what you wrote me an email about that I didn't get to read. Well, I should go back and read it, but I really appreciate you saying. Yeah, it's one of my favorite tunes that I've ever recorded, for sure. I love that tune. So thanks for mentioning it. I'm really proud of it. I can listen to it and feel like, you know what I mean? It's nice to put something on and not do the excuses thing when you're going to push play. Well, I really wanted to remix it, but I didn't have time. And, but I meant to redo the drums, but I should have not hit that out-of-tune note in the solo, but I hope you like it anyway. All the stuff you do when you're going to play somebody something. No, Remember, I'm proud of top to bottom, I love it. Chris says, I want to go back to Japan. Dude, me too. I'm so excited to go. I mean, I'm going on the 15th, and I'll be there for over a month. And I just, it's magic to me, and I just, I have, dreams of another life in Japan, that I could lead, where ignorance is bliss. And I just hang out with my tight group of friends. There's a dark side to Japan for sure, or a deep dark side, but I don't care. I love it. I really don't care. I don't need to be a part of that. As long as I got my little circle of friends. Japan's a great place for introverts. And I'm sort of an introvert, I think. And you can get lost and be amazed and just enjoy yourself doing things you don't have to really do anything in particular. That's one thing I love about Japan. There's just cool stuff happening all over the place all the time. At least that's the way it feels to me. I know if I lived there for a while, I'd probably feel like, okay, it's becoming more samey and I know what's going on. Some of that magic would probably kind of dissipate and the darkness would creep in. But you know what? It's like, I know a lot of people that live there for a long time. That I think this is weird because I would do it, but they never even learned to speak Japanese. They just had their own circle of friends that they hung out with and stuck to their own little world. I would be somewhere in the middle. I would definitely get more integrated and learn. I've worked on it for, well over a year now, every day for about an hour, working on, Benkyou shimasu, Nihongo wa. Yeah. And it's getting there. But, and I love it. I just really love it. But one of the things that you see negative things online, like, oh, it's, they're very bigoted towards foreigners or things like that, or, and some of that is for sure true, but it's almost, Japan's like a place like France to me, where the people are very proud of their culture, and that culture really exists and is very different, and cool. I mean, that's cool. And you'll never go there and be Japanese and all that, and some people complain about that. Like, I'll never be accepted. Like, people that go there and work, and it's like, well, yeah, that's okay. Like, you'll never be French either. if you didn't grow up there with the, in it, Whereas in America, it's a very different place where it's supposed to be a melting pot of people coming from all over the world and creating one big culture where you can do anything, whatever you want to do, come to this place and you can do it. And we don't care. That's the idea. It's supposed to be. Let's not get into that. But, you know what I mean? But these places have cultures that are thousands of years old that are deeply rooted. And it's a totally different thing to me. So it's like, I guess the point that I'm getting at is that I don't really care. I don't need to be or want to be accepted as, Japanese, as like some people seem to be, so adamant. It's like, no, but you can go there and have your little circle of friends and stuff. And then there's also the thing about it to me, and sorry, I'll get back to guitar like right away. I just like talking about Japan. The thing is, the guitar culture, if you've been, is amazing. It's so intense and deep, and it's just awesome. So if you're in that, that's your circle, and those are the people. And you can, I've got guitar friends there now and also just people that I know that are into music and whatever, and they don't get, you don't get any of that weirdness from them that can probably exist in places like that. So, I think if you're Marty Friedman or something, you're over there having a great time because you're just accepted for being Marty Friedman and being, like he took to it in a way that was obviously it's worked out for him, and I feel like I could do that. You know what I mean? Like be that guy where it's like you're that wacky guitar player dude that just loves Japan and came from another. I mean, I don't know what it is about that place, but when I first went there, it's like I think as Chris just said, he wants to go to he misses Japan, wants to go back. You go there and you get it, or you don't, maybe. Or some people are probably like, yeah, it was cool. I don't know. I went there in '95 for the first time, and I was just like, it was like adult Disney. I didn't know what, like, I just had the best time. I was like, oh my God, I love this place like so much. Like, it's so rad, and I'm having so much fun. And yeah, and then, by all these years later, 2014, 2015, I just really do remember being there when I started working there a lot. I remember being there on a 2-month stretch, I think, and being probably a month and a half into that, or almost 2 months. And I remember walking around one day on a day off and going like, I don't really miss home that much. I sort of do, like certain things, and this sort of feels like home because I'd been there so much at that point, already like working, and I was like, this is sort of starting to feel like very comfortable, and I don't really feel like going back to where I live like as much. I just was like, it's like a thing that was very, I didn't have to rationalize it or whatever. It was just like the way that I felt about, and it's got a lot to do with the people, the culture, the food, the, everybody putting 300% into the things that they do, all that kind of good stuff, and yeah, I just really took to it where I felt like, man, I sort of belong here in a way. Like it feels like I do. So that's Japan for me. I really get it. All and yeah, it was not a forced thing that I ever would have, I would have imagined happening. But that's how much I love it. So I really enjoy getting over there and hanging and doing the things I do there and stuff. And yeah, if you're a guitar player, to tie it all back in, it's heaven. So yeah. I love Diver Down, says Ryan, but not crazy about dancing in the streets. Big Bad Bill is fun, yeah. Big Bad Bill is sweet, William now. Mm-hmm. And it was cool that they had Jan Van Halen on it playing that cool solo. Evidently, he hadn't played in forever, and he just picked up the clarinet and made that happen. So, to use the effects loop in the R30, I haven't actually ever tried it, not yet. But I did use it on a video that I did recently for something. What the heck was it? It's not out yet. The video where I was recording, and so I've used it on something recently. I'm a really big, it's the one sound that I always say, a PT100 or a PT15, you can get all the Fender and Marshall that just about anybody ever needs out of those two amps. I think, sure, if you want the true Plexi thing or J1845, whatever, but you need a good Marshall, you need a good Fender, that's what the PT100 does. And you need it in a smaller package. That's what the PT15 does. But the one thing they won't do is the AC30. You know, that is an amp that is, you got to have all the stuff, which means, you know, the right speakers, the right cabinet, and the amplifier circuit. It's totally different sounding to me. So for me, you know, I've got to, you know, that's why I have the top hat there. That's why I have the bad cat there. And I've got an old, on loan to me forever from John Shanks, 65 AC30 in the other room. It's a very specific, awesome thing that they do. That it's its own thing, and you got to have that circuit, you know. And you're not going to get it really out of a channel switching, you know, modern amp that has a clean channel and a dirty channel, and not really. You know, you really have to have the circuit has to be there, I think, you know. And you know, having said that, this amp has a great post phase master in it that works awesome. But that's part, you'd have to have a post phase master in a EL84, you know. It's like, has to be basically all there, you know, all the stuff, the right EQ and all that. So yeah. What's up, Natalie? Bonsoir. Bonne nuit. Catch up on your live tomorrow, as it's been a long and tiring day. Thank you. I'm glad you dig my do. Here's another comment on the Boss pedal. PX1 isn't for everybody. In the few videos I've seen, it sounds decent. I would like to see someone compare the models to the actual pedals. That would be what I would want to do too, just to make sure it's, you know, it's all there. Okay, what else we got here? Do you have a preferred material for the nut on a telly? Nut choice, but only on a telly. I'm really particular with the nut choice, but only on a telly. Jerry Donahue got me going, what does he use, bone? Or, I mean, I just like what, you know, whatever the original would be, I guess. You know, I'm sure my 66 there probably has still, well, maybe it's not original. It was refretted. But it's probably bone because it comes from Japan. It probably was, you know, the refret. I use, you know, the Tusk stuff on my Sirs because they stay in tune better, and that's a big concern of mine. But I feel like bone's probably the way to go on a vintage guitar. I think most stress on amps is moving and gigging with them. I agree. Yeah, if it sits in one place. Yeah, but they can just go crazy sitting in one place too. You know, all of a sudden tube goes south or something. But certainly, I mean, moving stuff around, bump, 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 you know, down the street on top of a cabinet after a gig or whatever, and the tubes are hot. For sure, it's not easy on amps. Yeah. There's a super chat from Ryan. What's up, man? How are you? Happy Sunday. After using the Pedal Babies, if you could choose, what feels more real to you, Pedal Baby Reload 2 or Power Stage? What feels more real to you? What's a Pedal Baby? I'm forgetting what a Pedal Baby is, honestly. What's the Pedal Baby? Oh, that's the orange amp, right, that I used on tour. Really good. I will say it seemed bright. Like I had to dial the treble. It's got two bass and treble control. Maybe the EQ is flat and then you're just supposed to turn it up. I don't know, but I would run the bass on about half, but the treble I had down 3/4 of the way down. So that was my only thing about it. It seemed to work good though, but you know, that was my only observation. Quite bright with my, maybe, you know, I was using a 412 with V30s in it, but it still seemed like it had top end. Work loud as hell. I mean, they got power for days. Yeah. Pedal Baby or Power Stage or Reload 2. The Reload 2 seems great. The amp in it. To me, it sounds really, really good for a neutral, not, it's Class D, but they must have done some voicing stuff to it because it doesn't sound like that harder Class D thing. That you know what I mean? Like a lot of the Class D stuff just has this hard sound to it, hard mids or something. It just seems very unforgiving to me. And the Power Stage sounds like really neutral. So yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant, right? I meant the Reload sounds really neutral. Power Stage is the Seymour Duncan. right? The Seymour Duncan is, to me, it's the Class D thing. Good. And there's not much out there on the market, other stuff, but it is kind of got this, it's a little hard sounding to me. So, yeah. Your mileage may vary. I haven't loved, says Chris. Thanks for that super chat there, Ryan, again. I haven't loved the way most of my overdrives sound with my JTM45. JTM45 can be a little picky with drives. I don't know why. It's only 100 picofarad bright cap, but the bright, you might clip the bright and see if you can just get what you need bright-wise out of the treble, because the bright caps can always make drives a little harsh or a little weird. So I haven't had a lot of issues with 100 picofarad bright caps and amps and not working with drives, but it definitely will add a little sizzle or grit on the top end that it won't if you use a drive with no bright cap. So, you might want to try that. Like, just take that little cap, just disconnect one lug on the volume pot and see if and then try your drives with it and see if it's like, oh, that sounds more pleasant. It probably will. It'll be smoother and work with more different pedals and stuff like that if you do that. But it still might not be the thing you like. Okay. Any tips on setting neck, humbucker height, or pole pieces to make it sound clearer and brighter? Well, lower the bass side and raise the treble side a hair. Pole pieces, I mean, you can try, and I don't really like that, like backing them out, and I don't know. I think that the only other problem you might have is the pots in your guitar. You want to look at that, make sure that the true 500K or maybe even 550 or something like that, measure the volume pot on the neck pickup and make sure it's not a 300. If it's a Gibson that would, from a while ago and they had those 300K pots, they can definitely darken and muddy the pickup. But beyond that, you're going to want to try a T-top style or a lower output, Thornbucker neck, 7-point-something K, and maybe with unbalanced coils a little bit to try and pull out a little bit of the brightness or the yeah, that's what I would suggest. Yeah. Joe says, cool that Britt's playing with Ashley Simpson. I used to be in a band with Chris Fox, who was her drummer. Okay, cool. Yeah, she's having a lot of fun. She's playing in Vegas. It's a really good band. They sounded great. I mean, I say, like, I saw them a week ago last night in Vegas, and they had, I say, no right to sound as good as they did. They'd just done some, a few rehearsals. Ashley was like an old pro. I mean, she's just sounded like she'd been on tour for 20 years. I was like, how are you this good and you haven't done this for so long? She's just been, raising a family and stuff. And she's 40 something now, 41, I think. And just kind of wanted to go back and do it. And so they put it together, and it was, she was really, really good, like tight and no problems. It was like, that was an impressive show, and everybody there had fun. So for what it is, it was really quite good, I thought. And Britt killed it. Perfect. It's my birthday. Can you play a bit of a 12-bar Status Quo riff? I don't know if I'd remember one right now. Okay. Let's see if I remember. Whatever you want, whatever you like. Okay, that's all you get. Happy birthday! a good one. You're an inspiration to us all. Thanks, Javier. Appreciate that. Who are your top 3 biggest guitar influences? I would say Pete Townsend, Eddie Van Halen. Who's number 3? To be honest, I'm going to give credit to, and I'm going to make this a double because people do that. It's a tie. And I'm going to give it to Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, my buds and bandmates from the Satch Vai band. Just because during that formative time, I was influenced by a lot of people, but during that formative 85 to, 91 or 92, when I was really practicing guitar like a lot and learning a lot of stuff, those were my guys. It was basically Eddie and Joe and Steve during that time. So I gotta, there's a lot of influence from a lot of other stylistic things and stuff like that, but I was really focused on it then, so love those guys. And they continue to be, I continue to learn from them on the daily. Yep. Eddie's style melded with Brian May on Starfleet, but that's the only one that works. I'd love to listen to that. Actually, I gotta go back and listen to that because I never really listened to that much. The Starfleet project. Yep. Somebody's mentioning that they paid $50 for Guitar Nerd. Wow. Well, maybe I should get some more made. It would be a little bit of an ordeal, but I could totally do it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm pretty far back in the chat. I should move down a little bit. But did you see Andy Wood release his solo double vinyl album? He's one of the most underrated guitar players. Andy's amazing, man. He works his butt off too. He's always got stuff going on. Yep. Joe says he loves the red Strat SSH with the red tortoiseshell pickguard. It's back there. It's in the, I got it back there. It is a really cool guitar with the neck that's a lot like my Jackson. How are musicians making money now since everything is digital? Touring only. Well, yeah, it's a lot of touring and selling things adjacent to music. So T-shirts and USB sticks and, whatever you can come up with. It's possible to make a living with music and music adjacent things. That's what I say, But the whole thing is that, you have to have, if you want to make money, you have to be selling something that people are still buying, which is either a live performance or something merchandise related that people want that seems interesting. So that's either LPs or I guess CDs or like music adjacent things. This is why people have signature guitars and amplifiers and things like that. You have to have some sort of value thing that people want that they still pay money for. So that's it. That can be a lot of different things. Playing shows and selling merchandise. That's really it. People just decided they didn't want to pay for music anymore, or deals were made and musicians weren't really a part of it, with labels and Spotify and Apple Music and all these kinds of, where it was like, we'll pay you this much for these streams and then we'll keep most of it and give the musicians pennies because it's a race to the bottom, So I will say it's not a good thing, but the one thing that I suppose is a positive is that the only people still in the game making a record are people that really want to do it. Because you really got to want to do it because, it's for the love almost, or at least to get you to the point where you can tour and make people, used to be the tour was to promote the record. Now the record is to promote the tour. And this is why tours, tickets now are, I'm going to see Oasis tonight for crappy seats. It was $500, for a couple of tickets. It's like, that's just, the way that it is these days, it seems, and it's bonkers, but I don't know, the world's upside down in many ways, isn't it? So when you first learned to play Beautiful Girls, did you have a tough time getting the rhythm down? Oh yeah, it's hard. You gotta swing. I'll play it in that video I did with Nick Bocott. You can see, and probably see where I kind of break down the different parts a little bit, go through it. I think that video did pretty well, right? The let's take a look. I got to take a look. I was surprised. It was Nick's idea, and it was a really, really, really good idea, that video. That you know, he really had a great I'm not, for some reason in the search it comes up on Facebook, and but it just didn't pop right up on the Facebook, sir. YouTube, Sweetwater. I hate Google. Sorry, just one sec here. I'll find it. I'm just curious, like how it, because I was really surprised that the I was like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good. You know, he had a really solid idea, which was to talk about Van Halen rhythm parts for a while. Yeah, it's got 110K views. That's really good. Good idea, Nick. Really solid. Very happy with that. What else? Hoffman there. F. Hoffman saying, first time watching your live. Great to be here. Nice to have you. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna hang another 1:18. I'll probably hang till about an hour 45, and then I got to split because I got a bunch of work I got to get done. This week's crazy, and then I'm going to see that show tonight. So I've got to plan my day right. I need a few hours to work on something. I'm gonna start a product video for something that I've got here. Got a few videos coming out for stuff. So the Manus. We talk about this pedal. Great clone style pedal from Keeley. Really nice. So video coming from that. Another one for a chorus and overdrive. And Earthquaker pedal. That's 3. God, I got another one from a Crazy Tube Circuits pedal that I got to edit and get that out. That's 4. And then another one for another product here. That's 5. So I got 5 videos coming. I can space those out over the whole month that I'm going to be in Japan. And it'll seem like I'm not even gone. Yeah. I haven't been that active lately on YouTube, I know, but there's some stuff coming. What's your favorite guitar shop in Japan? Going there is on the top of my bucket list. I'm going to say number 1 is probably Hyper Guitars, which is now in Harajuku, really close to the Fender super 5-story Fender extravaganza that you should probably visit too, because it's just something else. Fender has a flagship Tokyo store there. It's crazy. You just see it from the outside and you'd be like, that whole building is a Fender store. It's crazy. Yeah, the Hyper Guitars is really close. It's just a little bit sort of north, I guess, of there on the street that runs between Shibuya and Harajuku. I forget what it's called. It is something else, man. The Hyper, it's down in this basement. You go down there and it's just like an oasis of vintage. That's really primo. Top shop. Yeah. As far as new guitars go, I mean, there's so many good stores, man. It's hard to pick, but the Akibe store is still great. It's moved, but it's still really nice in Shibuya. The Ishibashi store is also really great in Shibuya for new stuff and vintage. Actually, they have a small vintage. Well, it'd be a normal size, you know, in any other country, but in Japan, it seems like it's a small collection of vintage, which is probably like, 15 to 20 really nice vintage guitars. So, yeah. Check out Bizen guitars when you're in Japan. I will do that. I'll check it out. Yeah. Thanks for that super chat there, Music Therapy. Appreciate that. Okay. Moving down through the chat. I'm gonna kind of skip forward here. Joe said email last week was a pick of my makeshift studio. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check it out, Joe. Thanks, man. Sorry about that. Sorry I missed it. I'm just crazy. Okay. Just looking through here for another. Have you tried the Vertex Dynamic Distortion? It's basically a germanium fuzz vibe blended with the Tube Screamer, I think. Very interesting sound. I have not. I haven't tried that. Yeah. Okay. What else? Put the 3 bright cap switches on both the channels. 100 picofarad, none. 4700. Oddly, and the week before the Frieden Plex paint. Oh, you did that on an amp, Chris. You're saying, yeah, that's the kind of the Marshall thing now. Is the 3-way bright. I think it's really cool. Makes the amp really versatile. Like really helps out with different pedals and for different gain sounds and stuff. And especially if you got a nice master on the amp, nice post phase master or something, putting one of those on a Plexi or J1845 or something just makes it like, okay, now you got all kinds of sounds. Yeah. Okay, what else here? Would it be worth changing to the Reload 2 from the Fryette power station? I use 2 for stereo, and when I use the loop and super load crank, there's bleed through. Maybe if you're having an issue, and if you're carrying 2 of them because it's kind of heavy. I mean, I love the power station. I'm a long time user of it. I think it's a really, really good. I would say it's now one of the best. For a long time, I think it was the best option. But the Reload 2 does give you that stereo, and without the tube and the heat and the weight kind of thing. So, it's a pretty great reamp. It sounds really transparent. You can't quite get it as loud, I would say, as even though it's stereo. There's something about the power station. It's really, tube amp. It's got a lot of nuts. I would say the Reload 2 is if you're really getting like, blisteringly loud and that's important to you, like you want your Plexi to be as loud as it is when it's a full blown Plexi, you're maybe gonna find that it's a little underpowered, the Reload. But for most, just about anybody that's living in the real world, when you can't really have a Plexi that loud, it's just fine, like the power amp in the Reload. I just found like when I push it really hard, I can't quite get a 100-watt amp up to the level when it's like full unattenuated 100 watts. It'll start, it gets into some sort of clipping and also just sort of runs out of headroom. But most of us can't play that loud anyway, so, and it's not by any means quiet. You can definitely get, I've played gigs with it with loud bands and stuff at this point, and it works fine. So power amp in it, really good. Are you going to the Last Who show this year in Vegas next month? I am not. I'll be in Japan, but yeah, dude, I the Who, it's a mixed bag for me. The Who is my, it's my jam, man. I think they're amazing. And it was the reason, first song I ever learned on the guitar. I can't explain. Pete Townsend, love it. And like I say, my buddy John Button, Lauren Gold, both they're playing with them now. It's unbelievable, But by the same token, when I went to the last show that I went to, which was the Hollywood Bowl a number of years ago, maybe 2021 or something like that, I think. It was right coming out of pandemic, I think. I think that was the last time I saw them. It wasn't a great night. They can be hit or miss. Roger was the MVP that night. I thought he was great. But there was enough stuff that happened and enough things that I thought about the show where I thought, you know what? I'm not going again. That's it. The tickets, I bought the tickets through a ticket buy through the band and stuff, and they still weren't cheap. It was at least I think I spent $400 or $500 on tickets for a couple of tickets. And or just the goddamn Roland drums, not that I don't love Roland, I do, but they're not right to be used in the Who. And that's my biggest problem that I have with it, I think, is those stupid drums. Because it's just, they have no business on being on stage with that band, I just, I have a lot of, I obviously got strong feelings about it, but yeah, I just didn't, I just don't want to go again. I remember what they sound like from, when I saw them in 2001, Entwistle was still with them. He lived about another, I think I saw right before he passed away, maybe within a year, right? He died late 2001, maybe October or something like that. So I saw them at the old Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, whatever it was called back then, Irvine Meadows in Orange County. And it was an amazing show. And when you watch them, I watched a bunch of recent, well, not recent, but I recently watched a bunch of different performances. Rolling Stone or something put out a bunch of different versions of the drum fill / solo or whatever you want to call it that reintroduces towards the end of Won't Get Fooled Again, back into the last, the outro. And they showed, various Keith Moon and Kenny Jones and then Zach and a recent one. And so I went back and I started watching all these shows and the 2001 concert for New York, actually, at Madison Square Garden. And I remember this. I remember thinking, God, the Who are killing this. Like, they're the best thing on the show. They just were awesome on that show. And they were great. They were still great then. 2001 with Zach on the drums, who was like the best thing that happened to them since Keith Moon for sure. No disrespect to Kenny or to Simon Phillips or different people that played with him afterwards, but nobody could really touch Keith Moon. He was such a unique, but Zach, he had a thing that was the right thing. He was the right age and he was just the right call. He was a great call to have in the band then. And the spirit was there. And Pete sounded great and everybody sounded great. And they were still, dare I say, young enough or whatever to, and yeah, so it was just awesome. And then now with the, and what that one show that I saw where it was just, I don't know what was going on. Pete had a bad night and there was Won't Get Fooled Again was a debacle that night, actually, where I don't know what was happening with his guitar or his guitar sound, but I know they don't care, and they'd probably be like, go F yourself or whatever. But I feel like I've thought this for a long time, somebody needs to say, somebody without any skin in the game needs to tell you guys that you sound bad and this isn't what your band is about, and you should do the right thing. That's what I think about the Who, honestly. I do. I feel like somebody needs to tell you, that you shouldn't be out making, $300 or $500 a ticket or something and doing what you're doing and selling that's what I think. Because it just doesn't sound like the right band. It sounds like a different group to me. And they even put out a post recently where they said, we know we don't sound the same as we used to. And I just feel like saying, but you guys sort of could. Roger's great. Pete, he has he's Pete, but it's like, I feel like they just need help in the sound department, and in the attitude department, and in the what makes it sound like the Who department. I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. And who the hell am I? But it's the shit that turned me on when I was, I feel like if it changed my life when I was 10 years old. And so I feel like I kind of know about it, that, I remember what it sounds like. And there's a lot, I know I'm not alone in these feelings, Hey, AC/DC is an example of a band with guys that are a lot older, right? This is an interesting discussion, I feel like. But, AC/DC is a band where they've come up with a version of that band with carefully selected choices of people because certain people aren't around anymore or can't be there for various reasons. So they've come up with the best sounding version of that band where all the backbone is there. Brian just can't sing like he was when he was in his 30s, like he did when he was that's just part of me and his age and how he painted himself into a corner singing really high. God bless him. He's great. I mean, I love it. I don't care when he gets up there and he does it. He does his best. It's awesome. He looks like he's having the time of his life. He's obviously a great guy. His attitude is right. That's the most important thing. But because that is the case, that his instrument isn't quite what it once was. And you can't, Angus is great, for what it is. He's killing it. And the guitar, I feel like the amp tone, the guitar tone, all that is there. And then God bless him, my buddy Matt Logg on drums and Chris on bass, the backbone is there, where they're playing the hell out of the bass and drums. Stevie's there doing a great job on rhythm guitar, and it's just cool. And it's like, so those guys can sit on top of that and be their thing. But I feel like with the Who, right from the choice of it's not the drummer's fault. Scott DeVowers is out with him now. He's a great drummer. Zach, great drummer. But what the hell with those drums? Put them behind plexi, whatever you got to do. But you can't have that. Where the cymbals go. Pss. I mean, the drum sounds that those guys use literally to me sound like Rock Kit 01. Oh, that's good enough. And that's what they went with, I've thought that for a long time. It's just it's not okay. It's like for a band that legendary. It's like if, Led Zeppelin were to do a reunion and Jimmy Page was to use a pod on, Plexi 01 setting. And that was the guitar tone. They just went, okay, it's like, it's not okay, it's not okay. So it's just, why do it if you can't make it sound like it did? I don't know. And then, John, I love, he's my bud, he's a great friend of mine. One of my absolute best friends that I've spent tons of time on the road with. He sounds great. His bass tone is really cool, I feel like, for what it is. But the reality is that I really think in that role, like Entwistle's tone was, you heard it right 2 days after Entwistle passed away and Pino came to do the gig. Pino's a legend in his own right? And he's a stylist and he's his own man. But come on, like the sound of the bass and the Who and the approach is a massive part of the way those songs sound, And so I never understand, like, you can't, it'd be like, I don't know. It's almost like there's just some things that people do when they're at that top of their game thing where it's like, and they can't be touched and you can't tell them because everybody's afraid for their job and everything. And there's these decisions made where the rest of us that are paying attention go, well, that doesn't seem like a good idea, And so to have, Pino's an amazing musician and stuff, but I never got the dark, warm, clean thing with regards to the Who. How is that supposed to be a reflective of a legendary bass player like John Entwistle? It'd be like, if you've got somebody trying to play Van Halen songs through, a low power Tweed Twin or something with a Strat. Well, and it's a great player doing it, but it's like, well, but that does what I don't understand. Like, well, how that's not the right, like, I don't know. Am I crazy? I'm going to go to the bottom of the chat just because I'm obviously really passionate about this. I've been going on forever. Am I friggin' nuts? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's like, you can't, Jimmy Page is going to use the line 6 in the Boss pedal. Yeah, at least when Jimmy goes out, he's got like, 4 or 5 half stacks of, the St. Petersburg Marshalls and the oranges and the, it sounds like friggin' Jimmy Page, And I don't know, man. AC/DC, man. Where they got Matt Logg, who, for 25 years, I've known that guy would be the right choice for AC/DC. And lo and behold, he ends up doing it. It was just unbelievable to me and all of our friends that know Matt and stuff, that it's like, holy shit. And we knew it was going to be great. And is it ever great? Nobody can watch him and go, well, that doesn't sound as good as Phil Rudd, No, it sounds 100% all there to the best. It's like the greatest version of that sound that you could possibly ask for. I'm sorry, it just is, So because they're smart, they know that that's a big part of their sound. So now tell me I'm crazy. What am I missing here? What am I missing? I'm looking at some of your comments. I do think there's something respectable about knowing when to call it a day. Yeah. I mean, look, nostalgia is powerful right now. I'm going to an Oasis show in, a few hours. They're doing it right. I mean, they sound really good. They're out there killing it. They sound like a better band than they ever have, to me, to be honest, because they're probably better players now. It's like Oasis is sort of similar to a lot of 90s bands. Even, this could be argued for Soundgarden. This could be argued for Sloan, great Canadian band, where when they started, they're pretty new on their instruments, I think, or at least, getting around, learning a lot, still. And then as they made records, and this is the beauty of development of, back in the day when there were still budgets for things and bands lasted over a course of records. I mean, there's a number of examples of this, of folks that by the third, fourth, fifth album, or as they get into their careers, they're actually getting better. Like, I mean, certainly the Beatles, right? A lot of different artists. We could argue that they were, some people arrived fully formed. I mean, that's Van Halen on Van Halen 1. It's all there because of the amount of work they did leading up to it. But there's a lot of those 90s bands and stuff that kind of were a little bit more indie, or, and certainly I think this could be argued for Oasis, that they're better now, actually, than they, there's less, partying, and they got older and they got more mature, and they went through processes of making their own records, and Noel and Liam, both of them, you know what I mean? And then they weren't going to do this tour and phone it in or suck. So I think you're seeing probably the best Liam that you could possibly, if you're into Oasis, and I really think Noel, excuse me, I said Nigel. I really think Noel around 2010, 11, 12, 13, it got really interesting as a songwriter, more so. And we were only hearing that sort of start to happen in the 90s when Oasis had their biggest hits. So, he just got more, his vocabulary just expanded, I think, and he really matured as a songwriter, I feel like. So, and became, on his own. I love some of his solo records, actually. So, so anyway, they're doing it right now, and yeah, it's expensive, but it's good, it's like really good. So, yeah. So anyway, like the Eagles or Toto, always good. I mean, yeah, they're never, I having worked with Don extensively, he's probably one of his biggest fears is not doing a good show, maybe to detriment almost, you know what I mean? It's like he, it's got to be just so, or they're not, it would never happen, and certainly Toto, some of the latest stuff, amazing, Yeah. Paul says, I'm confused. I listened live on the radio to the Who's final show when I was 10. Me too. I'm about your age. I recorded it on Betamax, literally, live from Toronto. And I mean, when we think about it now, the idea of it being a final show, they were all in their like late 30s then. It's hilarious to think that that would have been it. Pete was like, he was a kid. It's kind of funny, I love that period of like the early 80s of like the classic bands like the Who and certainly Paul McCartney, and it was like they were all like still like late 30s, maybe 40. They were so friggin' young, and still looked really like, when you go back and look at how old they look back then, even the 50, you go back and you see what Little Richard looked like back then, or even Chuck Berry, or like, and they looked like kids. It's so funny. Thought of them as the old guys then, but they weren't at all. So it's funny. Yeah. Is Grohl really going to try and keep the ship sailing with the drum change up and all the drama? I mean, yeah. I mean, they're getting ready to go to Japan right now. They got a bunch of dates over there. So I saw Rami last night, actually. Foos, at the party I was at last night, and he, I think we're going to be over there at the same time. But I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see what happens. They've had a rough couple of years for sure with all the crap that's gone down. But the issue these days is we have good players and such, but not a good new band to take us back in time where every player in the band is great. We need the young people to do this. I mean, it depends. I think there's some great new bands I've seen, I really do. It depends on the genre. But I've got some of my favorites. So, yeah. We've been lucky to be around with some of the best music ever has been played. Agreed. I mean, I think so. Yeah. When you're playing through your amp heads behind you, or you're going into a cab in the room, yeah. Mainly going through a cab in another room that's mic'd up, and then I'm listening through studio monitors in here. That's the main way I play in here. Yeah. Yeah. That's the main way I do most things when I'm in this room. But occasionally, I do bring cabinet or two cabinets in here. It's usually 112s, and I'll set them up behind me here. And I do that usually when I'm getting ready for a tour or something, or gig, and I need to dial in sounds and really know that I've got it, through. Then I can have a couple amps in here, even at a, just low volume, and make sure that the effects are about right. It's always so hard to tell. Like, I find exact levels of reverb and delay and things like that when you're not listening to the cabinets at full volume. So it's a good thing to at least have them at a decent volume, double check. So yeah. Let's see what else was said here towards the end of my chat. I'm going to get going in a sec here, just another 10 or so, and then I'll split. Yeah. I find that a band that's been around for 55 years should sound great if they play live, even if the vocals are not in the correct octave. Do the best that you can. Yeah, at least make the music sound perfect, It doesn't matter if you're old and don't like volume anymore. You can't. That's what I think. You can't, then don't go. Don't do it, If you can't handle it and that's the music you made, then you shouldn't be doing it, Do a totally different show. I saw Pete a few years ago doing a benefit show at the Greek Theater, and Billy Idol came out and sang a bunch of stuff with them, and he was on acoustic guitar. That was great, because Pete on acoustic's great, so almost like I'd almost rather see them do like just Roger and Pete doing a solo thing with just acoustic guitar. And no friggin' symphony or any of that crap. Just the two of you guys playing the songs, Maybe Roger plays guitar too. That's it. Like, just do that if you want to play quiet, because then it kind of comes across and it works. It's like when you see McCartney play solo acoustic. It's brilliant, So, but when you've got, we're going to do the rolling drums, I can't even with that, man. It just sucks. Sorry, it just does. Yeah. Braxel says I'm not nuts. That's the main thing that I like about this rant of mine for the past half an hour. Positive, what is it? Bias confirmation. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for hurting you. It's okay. No, I like to get it out. Yeah. It'd be like Van Halen with an ES-125. Yeah. Let's take this bass sound that was super loud and aggressively bright and distorted and just blistering, and then let's go with flat wounds and a really dark clean tone and kind of bury it in the mix, because that'll be good. Yeah. Let's see. As long as people still pay the ticket prices. Well, isn't that the truth, And it seems that that's the case with a lot of bands, But yeah. Saw AC/DC at the Rose Bowl and agree with Pete's take on AC/DC live. It was great. I was there too, dude. Saw that show. It was awesome. Yeah, even better than the one I saw in some ways at Wembley. I probably enjoyed Wembley overall more as an experience. It was about a year in between, maybe a little less, but I think they were tighter as a band and a little more tighter and looser, as a band at the Rose Bowl. Like, they sounded like a band that had played a lot more shows, and so it was all just very like dialed in and confident and all that stuff at the Rose Bowl. Loved it. Yeah. You should go see Oasis tonight. I am totally going to Oasis. Yeah. Even them, man. I mean, they got, real amps up there, real drums, cranking it up. couple of high watts, all good fun. Nobody gets hurt. So I don't think they talk to each other. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's that dire. I mean, maybe not a lot in between rehearsals and gigs, but I don't know. It's just, it's just a different thing. So who needs to have an acoustic drum kit? I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's ways to, believe me, I've done plenty of gigs with drummers that play behind plexi. You can talk over it when a drummer's behind plexi, it's fine. Like, it's totally fine. You can just do that if people have problems with it. And Roger's on in-ears anyway. I know Pete's not. He uses wedges, I think, and amps and everything, but it's got to be a controlled volume because he's got a lot of hearing problems. I understand all that. I get that, but it doesn't change the fact that there's not ways around, technically getting to a really similar sound and making sure that it, I just feel like Pete is the man. But I don't know. It's like he's incredible, but it's like there comes a time when somebody needs to be able to hold a mirror up and go, look what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, and go, let's get back to, you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like Rocky when he needed like the new trainer, to come in and like get him back on top. And you can't be like, I know everything, you got to be willing to like, all right, let's try some things, I don't know. And a lot of it, probably at front of house and stuff like that too. I don't know. I don't know what the hell, there. I don't know anybody in that camp, but well, I do know people in that camp, but I don't know that part of that camp. But whatever's going on there needs to be like a sound guy. I mean, I can't emphasize enough, it's like the difference that it can make if somebody understands what it is that you are trying to do, or at least that you should be doing. You know what I mean? Because you can make so much happen at front of house that is like in the right direction or in the wrong direction, So, yeah. Okay. I better go, but let me just look at the last. Is there any more? Is there an opening act tonight? Yeah. It's Cage the Elephant, who I quite like. I mean, I've never seen them live, but I like their songs. So I would rather, like I say, I think I'd rather for this show wish it was still Richard Ashcroft or something, because that would be, I love his, his stuff. But and nonetheless, Cage the Elephant's pretty cool. So better to burn out than to fade away. I did sound in a small club for years and just plexi the drums, and you could talk to everyone all around house. Yeah. I mean, it works. I'm not a big fan of plexi either, but it's better than, I feel like you can get there with it at least, especially if people it's 100% of people have hearing issues, or there's, it's like, okay, I get it. For that, it needs to happen. And also just for, the vocal mic. I mean, from doing sound, if, you're really close to the drums and you have the singer, and it's how much cymbals bleed into the vocal mic and all that stuff. I get all that. Like if that's the issue, like, okay, cool. But, yeah. Love to just sit back and watch your Sunday show, says Bruno. Thanks, Bruno. Hey, cute kitty you got there in your little avatar there. Yeah. Where's the show? It's at the Rose Bowl. Good old Rose Bowl. It's a little bit of a nightmare, but at least I can actually walk there, so that's cool. All right, guys. Well, next week I'll have something fun to show you, I think, if all goes as well. Ever use that Germino behind you? Yeah, it's my Jose, that it's got all the Jose mods down to it that Dave Friedman did. So, having said that, I may sell it at some point if somebody's interested in that, because I may just do, I sort of have this idea like, well, Dave now makes it in an amp. Maybe I should sell the Germino and just get one of the tricked out, to have that version of that amp. So if anybody's interested in it, that might happen. It's cool. It's a 100 watt Headroom 100, so, point to point, the whole, and Dave did the Jose stuff to it. I bought it out of a store in Nashville. Somebody had it there on consignment. And then as soon as I got it, I gave it to Dave to do the stuff too. and it sounded great before, so I felt kind of almost wrong about doing it. But it's basically like a a plexi with Jose mods essentially. So yeah. Where's your Marshall? It's right there. This is, you can just see it at the top of the frame there. It's a 7250 watt. It's up there. Yeah. All right, y'all. I'll talk to y'all next week. See you next week. It'll be my last one before I go over to Japan for a month. When I go there, I'll still try and be doing these and stuff. It's always a little difficult in Japan because of the time. So the time will probably have to change. It might be a thing where it's a Sunday evening thing or something, but I'll do the best that I can. But I'll be here next week, and we'll figure that out later, whatever's going to happen. And there should be some videos. Yeah, I'll have some videos coming this week, demo videos for stuff. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to put out this week. Might be the Manus, I think, from Keeley, as well as an Earthquaker pedal. Those will probably come in this week. And a couple other things. But I'll have something fun to show you next week as well. So when I'm in here. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Love you all. Take care. Be nice to one another. Have a terrific week. Rock on.